Hi everyone, this is Fiona from Sunshine and Showers, and this is the caravan that I bought in the summer of 2019. The caravan was going to be my first tiny home, and I was going to park it up on a property of 2.5 acres that I had just purchased. In my mind, the caravan was a simple thing. Yes, I would have to get a digger in to clear a driveway and to create a place where I could park the caravan on the land, but the caravan itself would be simple. The caravan would be easy. So easy, in fact, that I would just drive up there, hand over the money, hitch up the caravan, drive away, and park it wherever I wanted, ready to go. So basically, what I thought would be a simple job had turned into a whole project. And initially I felt a bit overwhelmed, but quite quickly I realized it was an opportunity for me to learn new skills and begin to use tools that I hadn't used before. Having participated in and been around the building of an eco house already, the one I currently live in, I have picked up some knowledge along the way, some practical but mostly theoretical. So the caravan became an opportunity for me to actually apply some of that theory in practice. So like I said, I thought the caravan project wasn't even going to be a project, really. I thought I was just going to buy a caravan and it would be ready to go. And, maybe I'd have to clean it a little bit or, change the curtains or a few things like that. But, put a personal touch to it. But that essentially it was ready to just move into. And in fact, the woman who sold it to me told me that her and her family were just back from a holiday in it. And there was even evidence that they had been on holiday. For example, there were brochures from the area that they'd been visiting. So it looked as if they had taken a holiday in it. And maybe they did. Maybe they weren't as fussy as me. I was won over largely by the fact that she told me that even though it was old and a bit shabby, it was absolutely perfectly dry. And that was what I thought, that's the most important thing. If it's dry, anything else can be worked with, It turned out it wasn't dry. There was a bit of a smell when I went to see it, and I was aware of the smell, but I just thought, well, maybe there's been smokers in it. It could have been, a residual kind of smoking smell. But I think that smell was the first indication that actually it was very damp. When I got it back home and began to look more closely, I realized that the walls in some places, in the bathroom, in the main kind of bedroom area where you would have the double bed in particular, a little bit in the kitchen as well, I realized quite quickly that they were actually soaking wet. So first impressions indicated that the caravan was old and a bit shabby, and it smelled a bit fusty.
but it didn't appear like there was any major problems. Then I began to peel back the layers. Large areas of the plywood walls were soaking wet to the touch and black with the damp.
I began by stripping the entire front end of the caravan. I took out the benches, I lifted any lino, I lifted any carpet, I took off all the wallpaper, and I chipped off all the plaster or peeled off all the plaster that shouldn't have been there anyway. I basically stripped it back to the bare floor and the plywood of the walls. Now the plywood was soaking wet, but I decided I was going to give it a little bit of time and see would it just to see if it would dry out. And it did. It did begin to dry out. Almost immediately I could see improvement there. And then I turned my attention to the outside and focused on sealing every seam on the outside, in the hope that I would end up with dry walls on the inside. And that is what happened.
After sealing the outside seams of the caravan, I turned my attention back to the interior again. I decided to leave the original interior walls of the caravan with their layer of insulation and plywood, and put more insulation and plywood on top of them to double the insulation value. By this stage, the original interior walls were perfectly dry, so it was safe to do this. Once the plywood walls were in place, I painted them. Then I turned my attention to the floor. One section of the floor in particular had been very damp, and this was caused by damp getting in through the seal around two boxes which essentially came through the outer wall of the caravan and into the area underneath the bench. I decided to remove both those boxes. One of the boxes would have been the battery box, and the other box was part of the heating system for the caravan. In both places where I removed the boxes, I screwed an aluminium sheet over the hole and sealed around the edges to prevent any further water coming into the caravan in those areas. Then I laid my floor, putting more insulation again and more plywood. I began to rebuild my benches, making them much sturdier than before. However, I waited to make my second bench because I wanted a little bit of room to maneuver for my next project. And my next project was installing my second-hand Morso squirrel stove. I decided to place my stove centrally in the caravan where there was a closet. My first step was to remove the closet. This is the spot where I decided to put the stove. It's above the wheel, and I took the heater out so you can see there's a hole in the floor, which I had to then seal up. As before, I put polystyrene and plywood on the wall behind where the stove would go. Then I built my hearth. I put corrugated tin from an old goat house behind and to one side of the stove as a heat shield. After the hearth and the fire was installed, I was able to put in my second bench and finally able to make the bed. I was also able to add some finishing touches to the window frames.